Hi, welcome back to another episode of You Can Do It. I'm Annie, and today's video is just going to be about tips for tiling, especially if you're a beginner and you've never tiled before. So the first tip is always use spacers. Don't ever eyeball your project and hope that it's going to turn out well for you. Spacers are your friend. They make sure that you've got those nice flawless grout lines going on. I like to use the 1/8 inch spacer. It's not too big of a grout line and it's not too small of a grout line. So use spacers. The only projects I have ever done without using spacers is uncalibrated slate. And that is a slate that's not perfectly square or it's not perfectly the same calibration of thickness. So you do kind of have to eyeball a project like that. But if you're a beginner, you're not going to want to use one of those types of stones anyway. So stick to something like porcelain or an actual calibrated stone or ceramic. Now talking about tile itself, the type of tile depends on where you're using it. Ceramics are best used for walls and for decor. They're not really high traffic rated. Ceramic isn't also very good for a wet location like a shower because ceramic tile will absorb moisture and it can start to fall apart. So maybe reserve your ceramics for either really low traffic areas or just for wall decor. The floors, you can use porcelain or stone for the floor, and you can also use porcelain or stone inside your showers and bathtubs. I'm using porcelain on the floor here, and this is going to be a patterned porcelain. So another tip when you're laying that out, pay attention to your pattern. You don't want to start laying it out and realize, oops, you just turned a pattern there and it no longer matches up. So definitely pay attention. Maybe not a beginner type job. If you've never done tile before, you might want to just stick to a solid color for your first project. Next, definitely wear gloves. A lot of the mortars and a lot of the grouts, they're acidic, and so they will eat at your skin. So make sure that you're wearing gloves when you're doing that. And then a universal trowel, that is an excellent thing to have as well. Different tile requires different type of mortar depth. Definitely look at the manufacturer's box and look at their recommendations. Some tiles only require 1/8 of an inch grout line or mortar line, and others require 1/4 of an inch. So if you've got a universal trowel like this one here, you're pretty much good for any project. Now, as far as mortar goes, I usually use the dry mortar and then I mix it with water with a paddle blade. And I mix it to the consistency of a really thick milkshake, and that is excellent for floor application. The last project I did was a very high traffic foyer, so I tried this Mapei. It's a type 1 mortar adhesive, and I loved it. Not only for ease of just getting right into the job, but also it just really grabbed that tile. And so I think I'm switching to Mapei from here on out. The other thing is, where are you going to place that tile? That is a big deal. You don't want a grout line going right where your eye follows. You want to see tile where your eye is following. So in a large room, I like to see symmetry. If it's a big square or a big rectangle, I will measure out from wall to wall, and I make a big, huge T in the center of the room. And then I place my tiles there and move back and move back. And so when it's all done, it doesn't matter what side of the room I'm at, I've got a flawless symmetry of my tile. But in a situation like this, I have an L-shaped bathroom. So for me, the focal point is this door. You're coming in from here. So this is the tile that should be at the focal point of the floor. So in that situation, I am going to measure from this wall out, making sure I'm in the middle of this door, so somewhere right in here, and I'm just gonna measure off this wall out until I meet the middle of this, and I'm gonna snap a chalk line right from here to that wall. So that's going to be my focal point coming into this room. And then I'm going to go left to right and see where the middle of this L is, and right where those two meet should be snap chalk lines, and that is going to be my center point for moving that way with my tile and moving this way with my tile, so that if I'm coming into this room, I've got a nice symmetry of tile, and if I'm coming out of the shower, I have a nice symmetry of tile that way as well. And you'll see that in the next video when I'm actually laying the tile. So the last thing I want to talk about is if you are going with a large amount of tile, a tip that you'll probably never hear from anywhere else, I don't know, maybe you will, but that is, make sure you look at the boxes and pick the boxes with all the same lot number or all the same production date. You'll see that down at the bottom of the box, somewhere along the side. And the reason is some tile manufacturers change the size of their tile depending on the year. And I'm not kidding. I did that in my kitchen. I grabbed, 400 square feet of tile, and it wasn't until I was laying it out that something was going wrong. My grout lines were no longer matching up. And so I looked at the boxes and realized that the production date was a year different. One whole section of my lot of tile was a year older than the other, and they actually changed the size of the tile by 1/8 of an inch. That doesn't sound like a big deal, but 1/8 of an inch all the way around actually adds up to 1/4 of an inch tile to tile. And so these new tiles completely encroached in my existing grout lines, and I now went from a nice grout to no grout lines at all. And so I ended up having to eyeball the remainder of my kitchen and just slightly move my tiles as I went down, so that to the naked eye, I had a flawless kitchen, but to the, to the spacers, it was all wrong. So just an extra tip. Make sure that all of your tile is from the same lot or the same production year, so that you do not run into that little variance of tile size will mess up the whole job. So I hope all these tips helped, and stay tuned for the actual installation of this tile.